the greatest sports debate show on the
For the first time since 2016, we have got a Game 7 in the NBA Finals.
championship rings, starring Brandon
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Let's welcome the championship ring.
I am loving this feud. Don't you dare shit on this. Don't you dare.
I'm going to shit on the stipulation of it.
Oh my god, the stipulation is fantastic.
Now,
Maybe it's because we just recently had the debut of season 5 of Stranger Things. But Brandon, I'll tell you what, the football world is completely upside down.
Yeah, listen, Josh, you might be a little surprised that I'm in good spirits today after we stayed up to watch almost a 4-hour football game filled with about 10 turnovers in it. We have a lot to get to tonight, all things NFL, all things college football, and as well as all things wrestling. There's a lot of news going on in the sports world, so let's get right into it. The question's on the screen about, do I expect my Philadelphia Eagles, after Jalen Hurts had 5 turnovers, including 2 in one play, to go on the verge of a 2023-esque collapse? And the answer to that, I know, surprised everybody, is no. I do think there are two differences between this team and the 2023 team that did collapse. The main difference is that collapse was on the defensive side of the ball. They could not tackle. They could not stop anybody. Their heart pretty much stopped beating. They were getting blown out by the Niners, by the Cowboys, by the hapless Giants. This team, on the other hand, is led by their defense, who, once again, even without Jalen Carter last night, played up to their potential, had 7 sacks, kept the Eagles in the game, and the offense just continued biting themselves in the foot and biting themselves in the foot and biting themselves in the foot. At this point, I think the 2025 Eagles are this. They are a flawed football team that, a lot like the Chiefs last year, are led by their defense, even though they have an offensive-minded head coach. And the hope is, if Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over, they can win games, but they don't even know what's wrong with their offense because it's not one thing. If it's not A.J. Brown complaining, Saquon Barkley can't pick the right hole on the first play of overtime, or otherwise he had one-on-one with a safety for a game-winning touchdown. They can't run the ball on first down. Their spacing is odd. Jalen Hurts turns the football over, and then he just throws an absolute dart on 3rd and 16 to Devontae Smith to change the game, and then throws the game-winning interception. So I have no idea what to make of my team, and I think the good news is the schedule does ease up. Josh, I'm going to let you go now.
Yeah, the one benefit you guys have is you face the Raiders and you face the Commanders twice in your final 3 games. But even still, I'm benching Jalen Hurts going into fantasy playoffs. I'm sorry, Matthew Stafford, even though, again, Jalen Hurts is facing the Raiders and Matthew Stafford is facing the Lions. You would think that would favor Jalen Hurts, but based on what I've seen, no, I'd rather have Matthew Stafford. But are the Eagles on the verge of a collapse? No, because their schedule favors them. Again, they host the Raiders this week, and then in 2 of their final 3 weeks, they play the Washington Commanders, who might not have Jaden Daniels. They're
And
only
quit. I mean, I don't know what that was against the Vikings on Sunday. I mean, I don't know what fight they have left in them. Now, it's always a divisional game. It's going to be tricky. I think the game at Washington is going to be a trickier game than people think. But I think you're right in your assessment to start Matthew Stafford in fantasy, because I think Jalen Hurts, they're not going to ask him to do much. They're going to ask him to throw about 20 times, hand the football off to Saquon Barkley, hope he gets good yards, and hope the defense can shut down what may be Kenny Pickett returning to Philadelphia and the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, they should win this game. It should be like the Giants game in week 8. And the only test they really have left is week 17 at Buffalo. And maybe they gain some confidence these next 2 games going into that Buffalo game.
Yeah. So, as we know, there has not been a repeat champion in the NFC East since 2004.
No. And by the way, last night, Jalen Hurts had probably the worst game of his career. However, that being said, the second to last interception he threw, I know it was a high pass, but it was off A.J. Brown's hands. A.J. Brown should have caught that ball. The throw he made A.J. Brown down the sideline late in the fourth quarter to ice the game, A.J. Brown should have caught that. The Eagles should have won up 10. It should have been game over. In overtime, as I already mentioned, he ripped one down the seam to Devontae Smith on 3rd and 16, which might have been his best throw of the season. And on the last interception play, they're trying to throw to Goddard where they run that RPO pop pass, which they've run all season long. He sees the defender come down on Goddard. He tries to throw it into Devontae Smith. The defender backs up, makes a perfect play on the football, taps it up in the air, and it's intercepted. And it was that kind of night. And so
it kind of reminded me, and I know we'll get to the Bears-Packers game here shortly, but it kind of reminded me of the game-ending play when Caleb Williams threw that interception to Keyshawn Nixon.
Well, that ball wasn't tipped. That was an underthrow by Caleb that was intercepted.
No, I get that, but it felt reminiscent of that play. Do you get
and by the way, the Bears only had 11 yards passing the first half, and they were still in the game. So we both have said that the football season's weird this year. I do think the number 1 seed is 100% out of the question at this point. However, I don't think it's impossible if this team wins their last 4 games to get the 2 seed. And I think that in the NFC this year, we know that the Bears could be the 7 seed. We know they could be the 1 seed. You're just going to want home field advantage. And I don't think they're going to completely collapse. I don't think they're going to lose the NFC East. They should get the 3 seed at worst. And we'll see how we do when we get into the playoffs. But I don't think the season is completely lost.
The Eagles, their biggest problem is they don't have an identity offensively. They really don't.
No, they don't. And it started in training camp. And again, it goes all the way back to training camp. Wayne Dickerson hurt. Wayne Johnson hurt. Jalen Hurts not looking as sharp as he did the year before. And there were signs going into it. And we as fans tried to ignore it, saying, it's based off the Super Bowl, yada, yada, yada. We won the Super Bowl. Everything's going to be okay. Now, I think the Philadelphia media has taken the Jalen Hurts criticism to lucracy levels. I don't know if you saw this. There was an article today in the Philadelphia Inquirer that has literally wrote about should Tanner McKee replace Jalen Hurts. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that we live in a Philadelphia media that's looking for any reason to hate this team because their expectations are way too high. This is the only place in the NFL where you win a Super Bowl and the year coming off it, everybody wants to fire the coach and get rid of the quarterback. It's insane to me.
The problem I'm seeing is, at times you've got Jalen lining up under center. At times you've got him in the shotgun. I get it. Different plays have him in those 2 different positions. I understand that. But it's maybe if you have him under center 40 times and he's successful with that, why are you going away from that and saying, hey, let's go to shotgun?
My biggest thing is they need to do more of it, and they started doing it last night. And again, they should have did it more. First down, under center, play action pass. Because What is everybody doing on first down? They are loading the box with 9 in the box, saying we are not going to let number 26 beat us the way he did last year. And 26 had a good night last night, albeit there were very much signs of the 2025 season, but he had better holes. The offensive line, I thought, played better than they have in probably the last month, at least when it comes to run blocking. So
on the one play, he ripped off a 50-yard touchdown run?
Well, that was on the fake tush push, which I thought was a brilliant call. And again, The overtime, the first play of overtime, after the Chargers got the field goal, Saquon Barkley picks the wrong hole. Otherwise, I think it's game over. I think the Eagles win. There is nobody on the right side of the offensive line.
You know what's crazy, though, is watching that game, you would have thought the game was in Philadelphia, not in L.A.
Yeah, and I thought that would have helped us not being technically at home, but having a home field advantage. But again, this team should beat the Raiders. I predict they're going to beat the Raiders. I don't know if it's going to be ugly or not. I have a gripe with Pete Carroll because I think the NFL is officially rigged for the way that Broncos Raiders game went down on Sunday, if you know what I mean, when it comes to the betting market of that game. But the Raiders are hapless. I mean, I'm
Yes,
here.
but knowing you guys, you'll find a way to allow them to stay in the game longer than they should.
Oh, it'll be a 7-point game in the fourth quarter, more than likely.
Yeah, exactly. But one of my biggest gripes overall with this game is the fact that it should have been in San Diego. It should not have been in LA. And we'll get to Phillip Rivers here shortly, but he's a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. He played for the San Diego Chargers. Antonio Gates, who went into the Hall of Fame last year, played for the San Diego Chargers. LaDainian Tomlinson, my all-time favorite player in the NFL, played running back for the San Diego Chargers. So, as much as, it was great to watch this game, the fact that it was not in San Diego is a travesty. I love that.
Justin Herbert has played for the Los Angeles Chargers since 2020, and Justin Herbert hurt the Eagles more with his legs last night than his arm, which I think is something nobody's talking about.
The fact that Justin Herbert played as well as he did with that hand injury is...
Well, he played okay. He was great with his legs. He was not good with his arm. The Eagles' defensive line won the game last night, and we somehow lost the game.
That part is true, yes.
All right, let's get to the other big matchup that happened in the NFC on Sunday. That was the Green Bay Packers who held off the Chicago Bears at Lambeau 28-21. And I said going into this game, I didn't really care about this game because I thought the game that was going to decide the division was going to be Week 16 regardless. The game in Chicago, the NFL has now announced that it's going to be on primetime at 8 p.m. that day, December 20th on Fox, going head-to-head with the college football playoff. For this game, if I'm a Bears fan, Josh, I'm actually encouraged. The reason I say that is because Caleb Williams had 11 passing yards in the first half, and they were still in the game. And in the second half, not only did they outscore Green Bay by 4, but they ran the football down the throat of the Packers for most of that second half. They controlled the line of scrimmage. Just the Packers defense made one more play than the Bears did. It wouldn't shock me if the Bears beat them in 2 weeks in Chicago and even the series are one apiece. These two teams looked about even to me.
And I don't think that second meeting is going to be the last time they see each other.
That's very well a possibility.
Because I do think they are going to see each other in the postseason. But think about the ramifications of this game. Chicago came into this matchup as the number 1 seed in the NFC. And now, because they lost, they have fallen all the way to the number 7 seed. And they're second in the NFC North. And again, we'll get to Packers-Broncos here in a minute. But I felt like this game was more important for the Green Bay Packers because they will be at the Denver Broncos this week. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears, are going to host the Cleveland Browns. And that should be a get-right game for the Bears.
Here's the thing for the Bears. I'm not picking the Browns to win, but this is the classic look-ahead game for the Bears, where it is the sandwich spot, Packers, terrible team, Packers. that is classic letdown for the Bears. That if they don't pay attention, if they don't block Myles Garrett, he may end up breaking the sack record on Sunday. And there is, I'm not going to say it is a 0% chance the Bears lose that game. That's what I'll say.
Well, if they do, then they're possibly in danger of missing the playoffs, which is crazy.
Even if they win out, if they lose one of these games to the Niners, that game could decide their playoff hunt. I mean, the Bears could finish anywhere from the number 1 seed, the 2, the 3, the 5, the 6, the 7, or they could be out completely. The only seed they can't finish is the 4 because that will belong to the NFC South winner at this point.
What did you think of the post-game handshake between Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur?
I honestly did not see it. I'll be honest with you.
It was basically just a quick handshake, and then they walked away from each other.
Well, I mean, these two guys are rivals. Ben Johnson's made it known that he was going up against Matt LaFleur. All the way dating back to his days with the Lions. I don't make nothing too much of it. I think the fact that it didn't make headlines tell you something. These two guys are going to play each other in 2 weeks, and we'll see what the handshake's going to look like at the end of that game because that's the bigger story.
Yeah, but I think the Bears have an offensive line issue because you talked about it. The Packers' defense, especially in Micah Parsons, he was able to get to Caleb Williams and cause problems for him.
Well, not so much in the second half. I thought the Bears actually steadied. I thought the Bears outplayed the Packers tremendously in the second half. If Christian Watson doesn't catch that slant and go 45 yards to the end zone, I think the Bears probably win that game. Again, the fact the Bears had a chance to tie that game makes me more worried as a Packers fan than as a Bears fan, in my opinion.
Wait a minute. Can we talk about Jordan Love, though? Because at times we've given him credit for how he's played, but at times we've held his feet to the fire. For example, in that Cleveland game back in week 3.
I thought he played really well, but I still got to see it for an entire duration of the season. I know, again, we talk about how bad Jalen Hurts is Monday night. Well, I know when it's time to be clutch, Jalen Hurts more times than not is clutch. I don't know that yet about Jordan Love.
And again, we've had examples of that. Think back to, like I just said, week 3 against the Browns. A couple weeks ago on Monday Night Football at home against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. And there's a few other examples.
How about the game against the Niners in the playoff game, the game they lost a couple years ago after they trounced down? He had an opportunity to beat the Niners that night. I think people forget about that game. I thought the Packers significantly outplayed San Francisco for most of that game.
Yeah, which would have set up an NFC North NFC Championship game. And
Jordan Love threw that crossbody interception, and he really has not been the same quarterback since.
Yeah. We'll get to that comment later in the show. Don't you worry. But he had that great game against Detroit on Thanksgiving, and we were like, okay, can you follow that up? Can you be consistent?
He's been on a heater the last 2 weeks. He's got a big test, obviously, this week going into Denver against that Broncos team who I still don't know what to make of it. I still don't know how good they are because they didn't even try against the Raiders and came out of there with a 7-point victory. And we're going to see Bo Nix go up against this really good defense. And it's going to be a matchup where I think it's going to be whoever has the ball last, whichever quarterback can make a play against one of these good defenses. I think Green Bay is a playoff team. At this point, again, I think the winner of that Packers-Bears game, week 16, probably wins the division. Chicago, I think, needs a home playoff game more so than Green Bay because Jordan Love has played in 3 playoff games. Caleb Williams has played in 0. But again, the Packers are just way too inconsistent for me to believe that they can go on a 4-game run in the playoff and get to the Super Bowl at this point, even though we both predicted them to do so prior to the season.
That's right. And, they're starting to get healthy at receiver. They got Jaden Reed back. They got Christian Watson back. They've got Dontavian Wicks. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep this up despite the loss of Tucker Kraft. But where is Matthew Golden? I thought he was going to be this big difference maker for them.
He's been a complete bust. There's no other way to put it. He has been a complete bust.
Looks like we got somebody tuning in from Sydney, Australia.
No, Cindy is the name of this commenter's significant other.
Got my hopes up for a second. Okay. But, hey, speaking of long-standing teams with championship pedigree.
Yeah. So this question has obviously been asked across the entire sports media world this week about, is the Chiefs dynasty officially over? Here's how I'll answer it. I don't know if their dynasty is over, but I do know this. This season, remember at the end of last season, Josh, going into the Super Bowl, the Chiefs were on their third straight Super Bowl, fifth time in 6 years. The conversation around Patrick Mahomes was this. Oh, if they go 3 straight, he might be better than Tom Brady because he won 3 Super Bowls and Tom Brady never did. Well, you know something Tom Brady also never did in his prime when he was with the Patriots? Not lose the division and not make the playoffs.
Yeah. I think we can put the GOAT conversation to bed. Tom Brady is and most likely will.
I mean, that's a little bit unfair too and a little premature. I mean, what if the next 3 years Kansas City gets back to 3 more Super Bowls? What if they go to 3 straight again? I mean, so we don't know. That's why I think it's hard for this question to answer. What I do think it is the same thing Philadelphia is going for right now, which is it's just a Super Bowl hangover of it is so hard. And we talk about this a lot in basketball, right? We talked about it with the Warriors when they went on their 5 straight run to the NBA Finals, and the Cavs when they went to 4 straight. That in the regular season, it's hard to keep getting up and doing it again and again and again, because at this point now, the Chiefs have played more than a season equivalent of playoff games over the past 4 or 5 years. And Travis Kelce to me looks completely old. He needs to go with his fiance and shake it off and go live his life good somewhere else and no longer play football. And they need to reset some of their tools, and they need to get better on the defense side of the ball, specifically in the secondary. And I think it has not helped Kansas City. That something that did help New England in their dynasty, and this is undeniable, for 20 straight years, the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets were complete dumpster fires. They could not get it together. The Chiefs, meanwhile, now they're having to deal with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert for the next decade, and Bo Nix and Sean Payton probably for the next decade. That's not going to help your dynasty case.
No. And if the Raiders can ever get their act together, they would be a factor. But
by the way, the other interesting thing is, and I'm going to put this comment on the screen. So he does still have 10 years left. But my question is, I don't think he has 10 years left with Andy Reid. And how much does Andy Reid have left? Is Matt Nagy going to be the successor? What does that mean for the Chiefs culture? And listen, there is still a world. We're saying the dynasty's over. They're not even out of playoff contention yet. They could win out and get in. And if they do get in, even though we all don't like the Chiefs, aren't we all going to say, oh, yeah, they're probably going to make the Super Bowl because they're the Chiefs?
Yeah, but even if they win out, they still need help from other teams.
Well, but here's the only help they would need. If they win out, the only other thing that they would need is for the Chargers to lose at Denver. And they're in.
But Houston owns the tiebreaker over them. Jacksonville owns
Well, Houston and Jacksonville are both going to get in. I believe that. I think we are down to the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Bills for 2 spots. Because I think one of the wild card spots are being taken over by the AFC South. I think Houston and Jacksonville both win out.
Yeah, it's fortunate that they don't have to play each other again.
And with the Chargers, I know they won last night, but they got issues. They could lose to Dallas. They got a hard schedule. I think they're going to lose to either Dallas or Denver, and they're going to lose to Kansas City. That's my thought. And that's how the Chiefs are going to get in.
And the Chargers still have to play Houston.
And they have to play Houston. And I think that's a bad matchup for the Chargers. I think that game is in LA. I could be wrong. But I think the Texans are going to win that game. Because I don't think the Chargers, it's why I picked the Chiefs going into Sunday night, is because I believe that the Chiefs could not block the Texans' defensive line.
So what happened? So what would you say if the Chargers are able to go on the road and beat the Chiefs?
Well, if they do that, the season is over. And by that, the dynasty part 1 would be over. Let's put it that way. New England had 2 parts of their dynasty. Let's not forget that. New England won a decade where they didn't reach the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So to answer the second part of this question, is this just a 1-year blip on the radar? I'm going to say...
I think it's a wait and see is what I think it is. We need to see how they retool their roster in the draft, because I thought Chris Jones played the best game of his career. The Texans offense could not move the ball, and Andy Reid coached recklessly on Sunday night. I know Rashid Rice dropped the pass. They should have not gone for it on the 4th down. I don't care what the analytics say in that situation. Your defense, the Texans were not moving the ball 1 inch, 1 iota down the field. The Chiefs could have won that game by backing them up and forcing the Texans to take safeties. It's how bad the Texans offense was moving the ball. The Chiefs gave them that gift touchdown at the end of the game to make it 17 to, I believe, 7 at that point, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah. It's hard to say with the Chiefs because, yes, they still have Mahomes. I think, I agree with you. I think Travis Kelce should retire, go shake it off, create a love story with his fiance.
By the way, just a quick comment on that. I can't believe nobody's talking about this on these talk shows. He looks disinterested. He's not even running routes. The drive passes with the ball hitting him right in the hands. He looks in worse shape than Jason did, and Jason was an offensive lineman.
Yeah. But to answer the question, is the Chiefs dynasty over? It feels like it's coming to an end, but you have to stick a fork in them to officially say yes.
I mean, here's the thing. They still have Mahomes. I don't think it's going to be over. I just think it's going to be harder. And I think that the AFC is better in the quarterback race, unlike when it was when Brady was there. When Brady was there, he had to deal with Peyton Manning and maybe a little bit of Ben and maybe a little bit of Flacco, but never in his division. Mahomes is dealing with Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, and who knows? What if the Raiders get the number 1 pick and pick the guy who just beat Ohio State this past weekend?
Yeah, although right now the New York Giants currently hold the number 1 pick.
And I would say the Giants will probably trade that pick because they need a lot more talent on that roster. I think this is a different conversation, obviously, but I think if the Giants or Titans get the number 1 pick, they're probably trading out of it.
Yeah, and we'll see if the Browns end up getting it. But
let's talk about the AFC South. So, in my opinion, you can completely eliminate the Colts. Phillip Rivers is a joke, okay? But the Colts are not going to win another game. It's actually making Eagles fans believe that Shane Steichen's going to get fired and he's going to come back as their offensive coordinator, which I think is a pipe dream because I don't think you can blame Shane Steichen for this collapse. Their season's over. I don't see them winning another game. I think they're going to go from 8-2 to 8-9. It's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, they're going to get slaughtered this Sunday in Seattle against that defense.
I mean, Phillip Rivers is starting against maybe the best defense in football. And again, he may start. I don't know. Who knows what they're doing. This season went from a season of, oh my God, we could win the Super Bowl to the season of hell in the matter of 2 weeks.
And they don't have their first round picks because, oh yeah, that's right. They traded him to the New York Jets for Sauce Gardner.
And he's hurt. And here, I do not want to blame Chris Ballard. Now, I did say at the time that they gave him too much. But you can't blame Chris Ballard for going for it. And he gave him 2 first-round picks. He's an idiot. He should be fired. Your roster was good enough to at least win this division if Daniel Jones did not get hurt. I think we all can acknowledge that.
Yeah, and now he has a torn Achilles, and he was playing on a 1-year deal.
And he's going to be out all of next year, it sounds like. So they are screwed. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they try to get Mac Jones off a discount section in San Francisco, even though he might be still under contract with them. I don't know. But to answer the question on the screen, I think it's going to be, believe it or not, the Houston Texans. Because I think they're going to win out, and I think that Denver will beat Jacksonville, which is what wins the Texans the division.
I'm a little surprised that was the game that didn't get flexed into Sunday Night Football unless maybe Fox protected it, which very well could be the case.
I am surprised a little bit, too, that like even Panthers-Bucks I thought was a better option at this point than Patriots-Ravens. But it is Lamar and Drake May, so I get it.
Yeah, I understand it. But I actually think it is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars who win this game. Or win this division, rather. Excuse me. I agree with you. You can rule out the Indianapolis Colts. They are using the ultimate break glass in case of an emergency. By the way, Phillip Rivers was a semifinalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame for the class of 2026. If he steps out onto the field, he will reset that clock and will have to wait another 5 years for eligibility.
Did you hear about this story that he was coaching his son's high school football team and they were using the same offense that the Colts were using with Shane Steichen? And he's been in contact with Shane Steichen the whole season.
It's hilarious.
But he does know the offense. Like, that's the one thing. Now, he can't move, and he hasn't been in football shape, and that first hit is going to feel bad. But what do they really have a choice? I mean, if they bring him in, they feel like they don't have a choice.
Yeah. The fact that they couldn't even coax Andrew Luck out of retirement is hilarious.
Well, there was going to be no shot of that. I mean, not at this point.
Fair, but to go back to the Jaguars and Texans, they already split the regular season series because the Texans had that crazy comeback against the Jaguars in Houston.
Which ignited this streak, and they haven't lost since.
That is true, yes. But you know what's interesting is since Travis Hunter went out, it feels like Trevor Lawrence is playing better.
For sure. And I'll tell you this, I think one of those underrated storylines of this entire season is Liam Cohen might have been the right coach for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is playing like the number 1 overall pick we all thought he could be.
And that's why I think Jacksonville is going to hang on and win this division.
Well, in order for them to win the division, they would have said, "Should we have to win out unless you think Houston's going to drop a game?"
Which even though they have a ferocious defense, let me look at their remaining schedule because I know they have to play at the Chargers.
That's by far their toughest game.
Let me see their remaining schedule.
They have the Colts again, they have the Cardinals, and they have the Raiders.
Okay. I could see a scenario where they lose that game in LA against the Chargers because the Chargers just decide we're just going to run the ball right down your throats.
I mean, the way the Chargers are going to have to win the game is the way they won it last night, which is C.J. Stroud for 4 interceptions.
But if the Chargers run the ball or run the hell out of the ball, that keeps the Texans' offense on the sidelines.
Well, I don't know if they can. Kansas City tried with Kareem Hunt, and Kansas City hasn't been able to run the ball all year, but that Texans defensive line is good against the run, too.
Oh, I'm not trying to take credit away from the Texans' defense. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. have been...
And they started 0-3, and the Colts started 3-0, and we all said the Colts had this division wrapped up. And by the way, we said that even going back 2 weeks ago. We said, the Texans are a nice story. They're not going to catch the Colts. It shows you how fast in the week things change.
Yeah. And It's hilarious that the Tennessee Titans aren't even a factor in this conversation.
Well, no. But speaking of the Tennessee Titans, Josh, I gotta tell you, okay, before I let you answer the question on the screen, everybody's going after Kevin Stefanski. Oh my God, how could you do that? They took George Sanders out of the game. Oh my God. Yeah, you know why? Because they said, oh shit, we may actually win this game. We can't do that. We have to lose. That's the old. They said, Shador, go out there, throw the worst interception we've ever seen, and then go out there and play like Brett Favre and get a rushing touchdown and throw for nearly 400 yards and bring us back. Oh, wait, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put Quinshawn Junk into the Wildcat, and then he's going to forget that he has to pitch the ball so we can lose to the Titans, and then a chance we can get the number 1 pick in the draft.
That was one of the dumbest gadget plays I've ever seen. But to answer the question on the screen, I wish I could say yes. I really do. But we're talking about the Cleveland Browns. We're talking about Jimmy Haslam here. No. He is not safe.
Really? Because I believe him and Andrew Berry have both been told you're back. And I've been saying that for about a month. I don't think there's any world they fire them, either one of them.
I wish I could believe you, but Jimmy Haslam, I've said it once and I will continue to say it. He is our version of Jerry Jones. The only difference is he's not egotistical. Well, to a certain extent he is. But the bigger difference is he doesn't get in front of the cameras and he doesn't get on the microphone. But I fully believe he is involved in all personnel decisions. And that's it. I fully 100% believe that. I think Jimmy Haslam is the reason we drafted, and then eventually traded Baker Mayfield. I believe Jimmy Haslam is the reason we traded for number 4, the quarterback who shall not be named. And I believe that Jimmy Haslam is the reason we drafted Shador Sanders.
So they activated the quarterback that could not be named off the injury list, but they said Shador's going to start the rest of the year. So I don't know. Maybe they put him out there. I think the better Shador was, I would think the safer Stefanski's job would be. It may come down to the relationship Shador has with Stefanski. If Jimmy Haslam goes to Shador and asks him, what do you think about Stefanski? If he says yes or no, that may be the decision.
And I'll tell you this. If the Cleveland Browns end up with the number 1 pick, I don't think they should draft Mendoza.
That was going to be my next question to you. But here's the thing, right? As good as Shador Sanders would be, as a Browns fan, the typical thing that the Browns would do would be pass on Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza becomes a Super Bowl winning champion, and Shador Sanders is Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's what it will probably happen, which is why I think if you're the Browns, if you have the opportunity, I think you have to draft Mendoza. You have 2 first-round picks. One of them is going to be in the late 20s because Jacksonville is not likely to make the playoffs. But you cannot mess this up. In the next 2 years, if you don't find your franchise quarterback, there's going to be another generation of Browns fans who will be long dead before they even get close to being a Super Bowl contender.
Hey, remember when I said the Browns were going to win 6 games this season?
And remember when I LOL'd at you and said, I will bet you every bottle of Dr. Pepper that I can think of in mankind that they will not win 6 games?
Yeah. I must have been doing something.
I don't know. You taking some of those things that Aaron Rodgers takes?
Maybe. Or perhaps I just drank too much soda or something. I was completely delusional. Honestly, I'll say this. the Cleveland Browns might not win another damn game this season. Because
Well,
after the Bears game, they have to come home and play the Buffalo Bills. And then after that, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe they'll beat the Bengals in Week 18 in a completely meaningless game. Whoop-de-frickin-do. 4-13. Yay!
Well, speaking of the Bills, you brought it up, Josh. You have been saying for weeks on your YouTube channel, Welcome to the Max, the Sports Room Talk Show, on this show, Championship Rings, that the Bills window is officially closed. But do you still believe that after Josh Allen did pull out those heroics and pretty much buried the Bengals and saved the Bills' own season?
I don't know why you keep getting rid of the banner.
I did not keep getting. Oh, it's because it's on a timer now. Hold on, let me adjust that.
Okay, but to answer the question, I'm eating my own damn words. Thanks, Josh Allen. He completely buried the Cincinnati Bengals, and I actually tweeted at you today. I don't know if you saw this or not.
I did see this.
Okay. Actually, I am going to pull up the tweet, and I'm going to read it word for word. I will even share my screen, so give me a second. But in the meantime, while I'm doing that, actually, I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm in a separate tab, so I'll just pull it up on my phone. But
give me a second here.
Yeah, do what you need to do. But
I got it. Let me see if I can pull up the screen share here.
All right, go ahead.
Share screen. Sorry, guys, we're going for technical difficulties here. Let's do this Chrome tab. So you should be able to now see my screen. Josh tweeted that if Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are going to overcome their playoff demons, this has to be the season to do it. There's most likely going to be no Mahomes, Burrow, or Lamar. So the path is clear for Josh and the Bills. But can they take advantage of it? Let me make this clear. I want Josh Allen and the Bills to prove me wrong. I know I've said that Buffalo's window is closed, but I want them to prove me wrong.
Which I do, because they are our Lake Erie brothers. It's always fun when the Browns play the Bills. But the reason I was saying their window was closed is because of something you and I have talked about a lot on this show, is the fact that they are so Josh Allen dependent. He has to put on his Superman cape so often. That's the biggest reason why they won that game against the Bengals.
That and the fact that Joe Burrow threw two of the rarest tipped interceptions back-to-back you'll ever see, or the Bengals were going to win that game.
Yes. On the one, I have no idea why he threw that pass. Christian Benford was right there. And that was probably the easiest pick six you will ever see.
Yes.
But like I said in my tweet, there is most likely going to be no Mahomes, no Lamar, and no Joe Burrow. So this is the easiest path Josh Allen has had to get to the Super Bowl. But if he can't take advantage of it, I don't know when he can. Honestly,
by the way, there's also a world where there's no Josh Allen either.
That part is true. Could you imagine the playoffs on the AFC side if there's no Josh Allen, no Mahomes, no Joe Burrow, no Lamar?
That's my point. The top 4 teams in the AFC, we thought going into the year, all 4 of them would not make the playoffs.
Dude, I'm telling you, there is some correlation between the football world and the recent release of Stranger Things Season 5, because the football universe is completely upside down. But to get back to this question, a lot of it is going to depend on what happens this Sunday in Foxborough, Massachusetts, in Gillette Stadium. Because the New England Patriots went into your house and beat you on Sunday Night Football already. If the Bills can go in there and avenge that loss, okay. But if the Patriots are able to really reestablish themselves as the dominant team in the AFC East, maybe I'm going to keep my take.
What do you think of Buffalo being favored in that game?
It's not surprising because New England hasn't really beaten anybody credible outside of Buffalo.
But here's the thing. They went to Tampa and they beat Tampa, but now it's like, how good is Tampa? They lost the freaking Saints.
Exactly. That's my point. When you got wins against the Giants and the Browns, and for God's sakes, the Patriots, I think, lost to the Raiders.
But who has Buffalo beat besides Kansas City?
That part is true, yes.
So I'm surprised. I thought New England should have been favored in this game by at least 3.
I think.
Now, with that being said, I think the Bills are going to win the game. I do. However, New England is coming off a bye, and that cannot be overlooked. And Buffalo just played a up and down field against the Bengals, which was no surprise, albeit it was in the snow. If Buffalo's going to win, they have to control the time of possession. They have to run the ball with James Cook, and they have to keep Drake May and the Patriots offense on the sideline.
And that's where I think New England has the advantage because they can run the ball, not just with Ramondre Stevenson, they can also run the ball with Travion Henderson. So,
agree.
Whereas,
I'll answer the question like this.
Go ahead.
I don't think Buffalo's window is closed, but if they don't win it this year, it is slammed shut, and I will never pick the Bills unless they make a major move to change my mind to win the Super Bowl again. Because even if they limp into this year's playoffs, they should be favored in the AFC, I would think, to get to the Super Bowl, even if they lose this game to New England.
Which I think the Patriots are going to win this game.
It's certainly going to be close. I could see it. Let's get into some more previews now. Packers 9-3-1 at the Broncos 11-2. The question on the screen, is this a Super Bowl 60 preview? I am going to go ahead and say no. I do not think either of these two teams are likely to make the Super Bowl. I don't think either of these two teams should be favored in either of their conferences. I think both of them have a flaw. For Green Bay and Denver, you cannot trust their quarterback right now when the going gets tough. And when they're going up against good defenses, they have mostly struggled. And Denver, outside of Dallas and Cincinnati, haven't been able to blow out anybody.
Yeah, it feels like they're in close games all the time, which could help them come playoff time. I'm not going to lie, because you know how it is when it gets to the postseason. Those games are usually right down to the wire and stuff like that.
And it's going to help Denver that they're going to be at home.
Yes. And again, as I said earlier, I think it was more important for Green Bay to win that first game against Chicago, knowing that they had this game on deck in Denver. But to answer the question directly, it very well could be. I think Green Bay should be one of the top teams to get to the Super Bowl. I would only put the Rams ahead of them right now. I think the Packers are on the same tier as the Seahawks, though I do like Seattle a little bit more because of their defense, but I would favor Jordan Love over Sam Darnold. So that's how close it is for me between the Seahawks and the Packers. I honestly don't know who I would favor if they were playing each other, say, next week. But
I think it depends on where the game's at.
Okay. But in terms of this game, I would give the edge to the Packers because as much as I love Bo Nix, and I have been a Bo Lever all season, I trust Jordan Love more than I trust Bo Nix.
Even in Mile High against that defense.
Yes. As I do love what Denver is doing defensively. You got Patrick Surtain. You got Nick Bonito, Franklin.
Zach Allen right next to Benito up front has been huge for them.
Yes. Don't they have Barron opposite
Yep.
Pat
Yes, they do.
Surtain? Yes. That's going to be a great matchup seeing Christian Watson. I would presume he's going to be matched up with Pat Surtain. That's going to be must-see TV. I will definitely want to tune in for that. But I just feel like Green Bay, we've seen it. You can run the ball against Denver's defense. We've seen teams be able to do it. And I think Josh Jacobs could take advantage of that. I don't know if Denver's going to commit enough to the run to slow down Green Bay's pass rush.
Yeah, I just have a hard time, I think, going up against Denver at this point in Denver, and I got to see it to believe it with Jordan Love. He's been good the last 2 weeks. He gets hot around this time of year, but every time we start
Toyota-thon. That's what makes him get hot. Toyota-thon.
Yes, but every time we start believing in these Packers, they lay an egg. And so I don't know. I think both these teams are good teams. They're probably a playoff win or two teams, but I don't see either of them as perennial Super Bowl contenders.
You know what's interesting? And we'll get to the Lions and Rams here in a second. I don't feel like and we just talked about this on the show last week, I don't feel like there's a clear-cut team where you can point to them and go, yeah, they're the Super Bowl favorites.
And as I said last week, I think the closest team would be New England, but this Buffalo game could change my mind.
I would actually say the LA Rams are the closest.
And I think the Rams have a flaw. It's their secondary. I think you can beat the Rams over the top if you have a good passing game.
Well, let's get to the Rams game right now because they are going to be hosting the Detroit Lions.
Like I'm telling you right now, I'm taking the Lions plus 5.5. I think they're going to flat out upset the Rams.
This is an interesting spot for the Rams because they host the Lions in what I think is going to be a very physical game and close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout one way or the other.
I agree. It feels like it's 27-24, 30-27.
Yeah, and then they have a short week where they have to go up to Seattle to play the Seahawks in a game that will decide who wins the NFC West and potentially who gets the number 1 seed.
By the way, if the Niners went out, they could get the number 1 seed. So this game may not decide the NFC West.
Yes, but I don't. As much as the 49ers have impressed me, I would pick the Bears to beat them even in San Francisco.
That's interesting because I think I would take San Francisco.
Well, don't worry. We'll get more into that game when it comes around. But circling back to this game, they've had some fantastic matchups the last couple times they've played each other. I do feel like it's a bit of a budding rivalry, especially since Goff and Stafford were traded for each other. Matt Stafford, of course, went on to win a Super Bowl with the Rams in LA at SoFi. Jared Goff has gotten the Lions close, but he has not been able to break through since the one time he went to the Super Bowl with the LA Rams. I think this is going to be Goff's first game in LA since he got traded to the Lions.
I believe you're right because they have played, but it was in Detroit when they played.
Yes. Once, I think twice they've played in the regular season in Detroit.
Now, have the Lions played the Chargers in LA? I don't think so. I think this is going to be Goff's first game in SoFi Stadium.
It very well could be. And it's going to be interesting to see how this game plays out because McVay knows Jared Goff extremely well. And I wonder if Jared Goff is going to give the Lions defense any insight on how Sean McVay plays offensively.
Well, it's a completely different defense now, obviously, for the Rams with Chris Shula than he was there. So that is something as well. I think the Lions match up really well with the Rams. The fact that this thing's going to be put in a dome. Dan Campbell and the Lions are desperate. Their backs against the wall. I think they're going to come ready to play. What's
Yeah.
interesting, I thought about this the other day, Josh, watching the Rams just swing it and beat the hell out of the Arizona Cardinals. If this trade never happened, if the golf for Stafford trade never happened, and the Lions and Dan Campbell elected to keep Matthew Stafford, I'm wondering if if the Lions would have had a Super Bowl already.
God, that's such a hard question to answer.
Well, you watch the Lions and then you watch the Rams and you're going, did they make a mistake moving on from Stafford? Now, I was never a Matthew Stafford believer. I was always a Jared Goff guy. I liked Jared Goff when he came out of Cal. I never thought Matthew Stafford was that insanely talented. I always thought with that Lions roster, people always said, oh, the Lions were the Lions. They had some pretty good teams when Stafford was there, and they never won a playoff game. But this Stafford and McVay connection is different. His connection with Puka and Devontae Adams is different. The Rams look like a legitimate, different Super Bowl-esque team. The Lions' defense is not at the point where it should be, but there's just something about the Lions that makes you go, they match up well with the Rams.
It's going to be interesting to see what the fan split is like for this game.
Oh, I think it's going to be very similar to what you saw last night.
You think it's going to be dominant Lions?
I do.
Interesting. Because the Rams, I feel like, have a more established fan base in LA than the Chargers.
But it's not much.
That part is true. Do you think if this game were played in St. Louis, I would favor the Rams more? Because if you remember, when they were good, that dome was rocking, and it was hard to win games in St. Louis.
Yes, but I also think the Lions are accustomed to noise.
That part is true because they play in Ford Field. So you're not wrong in that regard. But in terms of this game, I just don't know if the Lions' offensive line is going to be able to handle the pass rush that the Rams can throw at you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think it's going to come down to whoever gets the ball last.
And it's good. The matchup I'm watching, Puka Nacua against Amon-Ra St. Brown. Two of the best receivers in the NFL. I would say they're two of the top 10, if not top 5 wide receivers.
I would say they're the best duo in the NFL. And I would also add, I think Jameson Williams needs to equal whatever production Devontae Adams is going to give the Rams, so the Lions have a shot.
Yeah.
And the Lions not having either Brock Wright or Sam Laporta, that could be the difference.
How much of a factor do you think the running game is going to be played in this game?
I think it will be a factor. I don't think it is the factor. Unless Jahmyr Gibbs just goes crazy.
That's why I think the Rams need to establish the running game more so than the Lions.
I don't know, man. These two teams are so even. They're built the same.
I would love it if they matched up again in the playoffs. And it's honestly, it's a possibility we could see them face.
As a possibility, the Lions don't even make the playoffs altogether, especially if they lose this game, which I think this game means more to the Lions.
Oh, 100%. But in the same breath, again, the Rams had to play at Seattle on a short week after this game.
All right. We've talked about all these big games. Let's get to our Week 15 NFL top games. I don't think we're going to need a lot of explanation for these. So, number 5 for me is the rematch from Thanksgiving night in Cincinnati between the Ravens and Bengals. Because, Josh, your favorite rivalry in the NFL, Steelers-Ravens, lived up to the hype this past week. The Ravens lost. Their season is now clearly on the line. And believe it or not, if Mike Tomlin finds a way to go 8-9 and have an under 500 season, and the Bengals win out, the Bengals can still win the division. So they are not absolutely dead yet. I think this will be another 38-35 classic ball game, back and forth. I'm very much looking forward to one of these games in the 1 o'clock window on Sunday. Next up, we have Packers Broncos, which we already talked about. Patriots Bills at number 3, which we already talked about. Number 2, I have Chargers Chiefs, which we talked about a little bit, right? The Chargers all banged up, going up against the Chiefs. It is criminal to me that these games that we're talking about, Ravens, Bengals, Patriots, Bills, Chargers, Chiefs, not one of them got flexed to Sunday night or Monday Night Football. All 3 of them are in the 1 o'clock window on CBS, and maybe the most stacked 1 o'clock window on a network in the history of the NFL. And at number 1 is the game we just got done talking about, Lions-Rams. So pretty much we talked about most of these games already.
So my honorary mention would be Browns-Bears, mostly because I have a cousin who lives out in Chicago, and I'm hoping to FaceTime with them during this game because they are big-time Bears fans. So due to family connection, I have to mention Browns-Bears. At number 5, I have Ravens-Bengals, rematch of Thanksgiving. If the Ravens lose this game, I feel like you can pretty much stick a fork in them. This is a must-win for the Baltimore Ravens. First of all, I think that was the wrong call on that Isaiah Likely touchdown. But that point aside, the Ravens had other opportunities to win that game. Lamar just does not look right. And for some reason, again, they have forgotten that they have Derrick Henry. So for me, this is a must win for Baltimore. Yes, it's a must win for Cincinnati. I get your point. But for me, it's more important for Baltimore. Because
I've already stuck a fork in Baltimore. I think their schedule is too hard. I don't think that they can win out.
Fair enough. Plus, they still have that Week 18 rematch in Pittsburgh against this.
And they have Green Bay and they have New England. Like, there's a chance they only win one more game the rest of the year. And you laughed at me when I said the Ravens were going to win 10 games. They may only win 7.
Yeah, I know. At number 4, I've got Chargers Chiefs. Again, we already talked about it. The Chargers are banged up, but I think they can take advantage of the Chiefs. Yes, they're playing on a short week after playing a very sloppy game against Philadelphia, but we saw the Chiefs did not match up well with the Texans defense. I think the Chargers, no, they're not quite at the level of the Texans defense, but I think the Chargers defense can almost replicate that to a certain degree. So I would actually pick the Chargers to win that game in Arrowhead, and they will sweep the Kansas City Chiefs. At number 3, I've got Bills Patriots. Again, we already talked about it. No more need for explanation. Number 2, I've got Detroit at the LA Rams. And at number 1, Green Bay, Denver.
So we have the same 5 games basically in a different order. The reason why I have Kansas City and the Chargers ahead of Green Bay, Denver, it's just because of the Chiefs and what it would mean for the dynasty, basically.
No, I understand that, but the fact that we could see Packers Broncos again pushes it up the list a little bit. And again, I can't say this enough. The fact that this is the game in between the 2 Bears matchups adds a lot of significance to this game for the Packers.
Absolutely. Well, we've done an hour and about 5 minutes on the NFL, so it's time to flip to college football because the bracket is out. People have opinions. We have ours. I'll let you go first on it, Josh.
So I agree with the top four. Maybe I would have flipped Ohio State and Georgia, but it's not really a big deal. The teams that are hosting games, yeah, that's fine. Alabama staying in doesn't really surprise me. You don't want to de-incentivize teams from playing in the conference championships. But why do we have both James Madison and Tulane in? They are going to get absolutely slaughtered by both Oregon and Ole Miss. And I know everybody's up in arms about Miami and Notre Dame. Well, guess what? Here's why. BYU got destroyed by Texas Tech again in the Big 12 championship. So that basically removed them. So then you put Miami and Notre Dame right next to each other. Well, guess what? Go back to week 1. Who won that game between Notre Dame and Miami? Oh, yeah, that's right. Miami. So I'm completely fine with Miami making the jump over Notre Dame. And hey, Notre Dame, you put this stupid clause in that over the next 6 years, if you're top 12, you're guaranteed a playoff spot. And now you and the ACC are going back and forth saying, oh, the ACC was vouching for Miami, and this has done permanent damage to our relationship with the ACC. Well, guess what? Here's the thing. All I have to do is this. Hey, Big Ten, can we join your conference? Hey, SEC, can we join your conference? Hey, Big 12, can we join your conference? That's all you have to do, Notre Dame. But no, we're Notre Dame. We're too prideful to join a conference. We're going to remain independent. Grow up, grow a set of balls, join a freaking conference.
Well done, sir. I'm going to echo your sentiments, but I'm going to do it in a more classy, professional, unranting way.
I don't do that style. That's not me.
I know, and it's usually not me either. But here's the reality. And here's why I can't get too upset about anything you said, because everything is true. First of all, in my opinion, the College Football Committee showed their true colors on Sunday around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time when this bracket was revealed. What do I mean by that is this. The committee style of putting in 12 teams for the college football playoff is absolutely and positively a joke, and it is broken.
100%. I fully agree with you.
The fact that we need to put in 2 Power 4 teams because they won their conference championship because we don't want to get a litigation lawsuit. So let's put in Tulane and James Madison.
Well, they're group of 5 teams, not Power 4.
Group of 5, yeah. Because we had to put in Tulane and James Madison is hysterical, wrong, and pointless when you are trying to make the 12 best teams, which again does not equal Tulane and James Madison. That already discounts your argument. The fact that Alabama got destroyed by Georgia. Now, I get it. They probably have the best road win of anybody in college football this season, going into Athens and getting that win in September. And if we're saying Miami beating Notre Dame in September counts, then Alabama beating Georgia in September has to count. I understand that. But the fact that they did not drop not one spot and they get a chance to play Oklahoma, and the fact that Ohio State goes from just number 1 to number 2 because they lost the Big Ten championship game by only a field goal, tells me that we need to completely get rid of conference championship weekend. And to me, what it should be is you have your top 10 teams decided. and it should not be by a committee. It should be by a formula based off strength of schedule, standard of victory, who you play, when you play, come up with a formula, and that's how we get the 10 teams. Then you would have 11 face 12 and 13 face 14. Those two winners would become the 11th seed and the 12th seed in the college football playoff. And on championship weekend turns into that 4-team, 2-game play-in scenario, and we decided on the field. This year, for example, you could have done Miami versus BYU and Alabama versus Notre Dame. And those would have been your 2 games played. The 2
What
winners
about
would have gotten
Texas,
in.
though?
And okay, so you're right. Let's say Bama's the 9. Let's keep Bama at 9. And you could put Miami, Notre Dame, and Texas against BYU.
Okay.
That's your 4.
And Vanderbilt's going to obviously have an issue with that, but
well, everybody's going to have an issue with it. So then, to me, the only other solution is you expand the playoff to 16, and you say, okay, Big Ten champion gets in, SEC champion gets in, ACC, yada, yada, yada. But why was the ACC championship game between a 5-loss Duke team in Virginia and not Miami?
Because of stupid tiebreakers.
I know, and it's wrong, and it's pointless. And Notre Dame is acting like a bunch of crybabies. They need to join a conference. Listen, college football is college in name only. At this point, it is pro football adjacent. Once you introduce the name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal, where we have coaches like Brian Hartline, and you have obviously Lane Kiffin left. There was Matt Campbell now leaving Iowa State to go to Penn State. There was one other coach who I believe also retired. Might have been, I don't remember who it was.
You have the James Madison coach leaving to go be the new head coach at UCLA.
So you have all this stuff happening in the middle of the college football playoff that it should not be happening. There needs to be guardrails around this. It's so wrong on so many levels. It's why I can't get worked up about it, because the bottom line is I think we're going to have a great playoff. I think there's going to be some good games, but to get there is a joke. It's a television rating bonanza, and Notre Dame does have one legitimate gripe that we both talked about last week. Both of these teams, Notre Dame and Miami, did not play last week. So why did the committee rank Notre Dame ahead of Miami and then essentially flip them this week? That made no sense. And that, to be honest with you, is unfair, which is Notre Dame's argument.
Yes, but for Notre Dame to then go, oh, we're going to decline the bowl. Oh, come on. Grow a set.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. They should get rid of bowl games. And I think they're going to. Bowl games don't matter anymore. It's clearly CFP or bust is what Notre Dame is saying. And that's going to be the future of college football. This sport now is, as I said, pro adjacent. There's money involved. You have a coach, you have a quarterback, and you can win. Look no further than Indiana. They turned their program around in 2 years from a joke to potentially winning the national championship.
Which Fernando Mendoza was named a Heisman Trophy finalist alongside Jeremiah Love of Notre Dame, Diego Pavia of Vanderbilt, and Julian Sayin of Ohio State. Those are your 4 Heisman finalists.
And I think Mendoza absolutely played his way into being the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. I was really impressed with the way he played on the move against that Ohio State defense. First play of the game, he takes a shot. Everybody thinks he's out for the game. His brother, who's the backup quarterback, comes in, and then he makes big throws at the end of the game to seal it.
Yeah, I thought, Ohio State would let Indiana hang around for the first quarter and then say, okay, we're done with this, and put them away. Because
Well,
we
I
saw,
told all my Ohio State buddies this. I said losing Saturday night was the best thing to happen to you guys, because in the second round you're going to get Miami or Texas A&M as opposed to Oklahoma or Alabama. Yeah, I'd rather be the 2 seed. I'd rather have to go through Georgia than go through Oklahoma or Bama and then have to go through Oregon because they're going to beat the hell out of James Madison.
well, if once Oregon beats James Madison, they'll have to play Texas.
Yeah, but I think they'll beat Texas Tech personally.
I actually would pick Texas Tech to win that game.
Okay, well that's interesting. We'll make our picks next week, obviously, when it comes to the bracket. But we got some wrestling to talk to on tonight's show. One of them off the wrestling ring, if you will. This story is a weird one because Netflix has reportedly spent $83 billion, billion, to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. Yet now Paramount Plus is trying to come in and say that Netflix's offer is illegal and they have a better offer. But it is very unclear right now what's going to happen to TNT, what's going to happen to TBS. And we have the question on here of what it means for AEW in the wrestling business, but it really applies to TNT and TBS Sports as well for our business.
Yeah. So as far as I know, I don't have a lot of details on this, so you'll have to forgive me because, like you said, it's very confusing and it's been hard to follow. But as I understand it, TBS and TNT would still be around. And if Netflix is the one that ends up purchasing Warner Brothers, I think it would be more so a thing of how AEW is streamed on their secondary platform with HBO Max. I don't think the broadcasting of Dynamite or Collision would be affected on TV.
From what I understand, you are correct. Here's the issue, in my opinion. Netflix has already came out and said, oh my God, no, we're not going to touch HBO Max. We're going to enhance HBO Max. It's going to be great. We're going to pair it with Netflix. Why would they have two streaming services? They're just talking out of their ass to get this deal done the way most companies do. It's the same thing TKO said when they bought WWE with UFC. Remember what they said? They're going to be two separate entities. We're not going to touch either one of them. Yeah. I think they lied like most companies do. And I think that, yes, TBS and TNT will still be a thing. AEW will still be broadcasted on there. The MLB playoffs will still be broadcast on TBS, the NHL on TBS and TNT, and so on. But AEW has relationships with Amazon Prime, which is maybe where the pay-per-views will go. But for Netflix to say that HBO Max is still going to be a thing, to me, is a lie. And that's the bigger story is, what is Netflix going to do? Do they have any interest in TBS or TNT? Or are they just going to let it go off? Or are they going to sell it to new owners? And then if they do that, who's going to say those new owners have any interest in professional wrestling?
Right. And if it goes the route you're talking about, well, Netflix is already broadcasting Monday Night Raw. So how would that work if they absorb HBO Max, which is AEW's secondary platform?
Yeah, they would have to do a buyout or something. I know that the rights for HBO Max last until 2027, but they have exclusivity to the rights with Raw as a part of that deal. You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe WWE won't have a deal anymore with Peacock. Maybe AEW could try them. I think that the AEW library is going to end up somewhere on Amazon Prime. I don't think I would be concerned right now for you, Josh, as an AEW fan. I think it's going to last on TBS for 2027. But after that, we don't know. And the other thing that no one's talking about is, because, again, Tony Khan has not disclosed this, there have been rumors out there for multiple years that Warner Brothers is a stake in AEW. If that's the case, That also explains why Tony Khan has not relatively shopped around Dynamite and Collision to other networks, which would make this a problem.
Yes. And do you remember there were those rumors for a little while that AEW was going to have a third show on Fox called Shockwave, but
Yep.
that never really went anywhere. And it could be because of what you just mentioned.
Here's the other thing I learned this past week. When Tony Khan was trying to find a network for Dynamite back in 2019, do you know how they ended up at landing at Warner Brothers Discovery?
I don't.
He was at the Jaguars game, and there was the person who owned the Warner Brothers Media Network at the time, who was in charge of programming there. And he met him, and he started talking to him, and basically explained to him that the last time wrestling was on TNT was WCW, and that's when they were at their highest and gave Vince the competition. And the guy said, "Okay, let's try this out." And there you go. I mean, that's all it was. He had no knowledge of wrestling. He met Tony. He said, "Tony, you're a good guy. Here, you want your program on my television? I'm looking for cheap programming. Here you go."
I'm a little surprised that with Tony Khan being a partial owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, he hasn't tried to go to CBS for AEW. Honestly.
Well, maybe he can't now because TKO is in bed with Paramount in the UFC.
Which, as a UFC fan, I love that. I have not been able to watch UFC pay-per-views in a long time, which is so annoying because I really enjoy watching them. And it's not because it's two people beating each other up. It's because of how many different styles there are of fighters, and there's great matchups. And I'm like, I want to watch that. But Dana White, I'm not paying $80 for a pay-per-view on top of my ESPN Plus subscription. So thank you for getting rid of pay-per-views. Thank you for moving to CBS. If that means I have to get Paramount Plus, okay, I will. And the other great thing is main cards for UFC are going to start an hour earlier at 9. So instead of, events ending at 1 a.m., sometimes 2 a.m., they might end closer to like midnight, which is great.
Which I've always said that's great. It's important. I think it's the right move for UFC. But then if this goes through and Paramount's making a deal for Warner Brothers, reportedly they want control of TNT and TBS, that may be better, or it may be worse for AEW and that library of sports as a whole. We don't know what this means at all.
I would think that would actually be better for AEW because, again, the Paramount already broadcasts the NFL, and Tony Khan is involved with the NFL through the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's a good point, but Netflix is also now involved in the NFL. They have the Christmas Day package.
That part is true, yes, but CBS has, or I should say Paramount, has a more established relationship with the NFL. That's why they're part of the rotation of the Super Bowl.
That's true. But I'm here to tell you, and this is what I've told everybody. It's sad to say, but I think by 2030, I don't know if there's going to be broadcast television anymore. Because I think the A package for the NFL is actually going to go to Netflix and Amazon Prime, and I think it's going to kill broadcast television. That is my ultimate prediction.
You very well could be right. And speaking of things on their last stand, we've got John Cena. You will be at Capital One Arena.
I will be. Josh, I got to admit, it's starting to hit me. It started to hit me this week that I am going. The reason why I am going, I will not only be at John Cena's last match, but I will be at the Cavs game the night before. I will be at the Capitals game 48 hours the night before. Those two commenters in the chat earlier tonight, Lucky Lou and Andy, they are both going to be with me, by the way, throughout this trip. Andy does live in the Washington, D.C. area. Very excited for this trip. And Cena, man, like, I know obviously we both have our different interests in wrestling, but John Cena is my childhood. And Edge may be my favorite wrestler of all time, but there's something about John Cena that has gotten me the love of wrestling. And you'll listen to him in these interviews like I have the past couple days with Chris Van Vliet, Tom Rinaldi, Bill Simmons. You can very tell that man knows how to speak. It's going to be his final match, and it's going to be against Gunther, and Gunther's going to probably make him tap out. But we are going to celebrate who might be the greatest professional wrestler of all time ever wear a pair of jorts again.
I actually think Cena could win this match because he already lost at Survivor Series against Dominic Mysterio. Could you imagine if Dominic Mysterio is able to carry that for throughout 2026? I was the final person to beat John Cena. That would be,
Actually, you're right. I think that would help Dom more than it would help Gunther. I'm with you.
So, but at the same time, it would be a really good feather in Gunther's cap if he's able to say, I beat both Goldberg and John Cena in their retirement matches. So I could see this match going either way. And honestly, it makes sense. Personally, I think I would have preferred LA Knight to face John Cena, just because if you remember, I think it was at Payback, if I'm not mistaken, John Cena raised LA Knight's hand. So I feel like that would have been the ultimate sort of closure. But at the same time, I don't have an issue with Gunther being his final opponent either. So the tournament wasn't always great, but I think we got to the right conclusion. Personally,
the superstars that were in the tournament.
Yes, that's what I mean. Again, LA Knight would have been my personal preference, but I have no issue with Gunther, so I think it would have been the right decision either way. I'll say it like that. But for me personally, I believe Randy Orton is the GOAT, but John Cena is very much right there. I would probably have him second. But in terms of Cena, again, not trying to take anything away from him, I just think Orton's a little bit better, even though he doesn't have as many championships. But to focus on Cena, I mean, I feel like nobody would be as big of a wrestling fan as they are, whether it's WWE or AEW. It doesn't really matter in this case. If it were not for John Cena, I don't think either of us would be as big of wrestling fans as we are. I don't think anybody would be as big of a wrestling fan as they are. I don't think the WWE would be as strong as they are. I don't think AEW would even exist if it weren't for John Cena. That's how big of an impact I feel like he had.
I can't add any more than that because that's exactly what I was going to say. And that's why I think this is so hard, particularly for our generation, because we grew up with John Cena. And Roman Reigns' run was great. It lasted 4 years. Hulk Hogan's run was great. What did it last? 8, 9 years? Cena's run on top lasted from 2005 to at least 2018 at the earliest. Would be maybe when you could say Roman Reigns took the mantle, but I would say you can make an argument it could have went all the way to 2019, 2020, up until Roman Reigns was the tribal chief. That John Cena was, maybe if he wasn't all the way around, he was at least the face of WWE.
There were some times where you're just like, I don't get what's happening with him.
I think the one regret that I think John Cena will tell you about his career is he should have put the Nexus over at SummerSlam 2010. I think that's the one X on his career, and everybody's got one. Tom Brady got one. He retired a year too late. He should have hung it up the year before. And guys don't always go out on top. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl. Yeah, he couldn't throw at the end of his career. Legends do not always go out on top, and the wrestling trope has always been you go out on your back. I'm very interested to see how this match is put together because Gunther, if they want to build him to be the supervillain, he has to win, obviously. But you can make an argument right now. There's no shot for him in the world title picture, so where do you go after this?
And he's already been world champion.
Yes. Well, so was Brock Lesnar, but Brock Lesnar beating the Undertaker streak, I will argue, made a different Brock Lesnar. I don't care what anybody says. The Brock Lesnar beating the Undertaker streak made Brock Lesnar the beast we know he is today, made Suplex City born. What are you going to do with Gunther? Because I think we're in a very similar situation. If Gunther is the one to retire John Cena, it has to born a new Gunther. It has to born a more ruthless and unstoppable, a Brock Lesnar-esque Gunther run.
The problem is Gunther already had a lengthy title reign as Intercontinental Champion. I would argue he's top 3 in terms of Intercontinental Champions. Greatest
I would argue he's the best all time.
Yeah. I loved his title reign as World Heavyweight Champion. Although his feuds didn't always quite click, but the matches themselves usually were fantastic. My one little issue, though, I know Cena's final date is at Saturday night's main event. I understand that. But on Raw last night, I would have liked it if Cena had been there just to cut one promo and have a little promo battle with Gunther leading into this match. That's
you know what's wild? Did you hear that Cena wanted to do 250 dates to a whole tour and they told him no? They told him, we don't want you getting hurt. We want you to be a special attraction. We're going to give you 36 dates.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of crazy.
And then when he turned heel, he said he came up with that line that he was going to ruin wrestling when he woke up out of a dream at 3 o'clock in the morning. He literally was sleeping and woke up and said, oh my God, I got to ruin wrestling. That's what I'm doing as a heel.
Which, honestly, I don't think his heel turn worked in the way he wanted it to or WWE.
Well, he knows to confirm that they told him we need to do like a two-year story in 10 days. And as he said, he did wrestle on purpose like chicken shit as a heel.
Oh, I know. I totally get it. But I just felt like it just, for me, the heel turn didn't quite work. I probably will watch this on Saturday, even though I've been a big WWE hater. By the way, I will say this. I am really enjoying this long-term story WWE's telling with the Masked Man of Survivor Series, because I've seen, clips of it and stuff. I haven't gone back and watched Survivor Series. I don't plan to, but I know the story. At Survivor Series, that was clearly Austin Theory, and then last night on Raw, that looked like Montez Ford. So I think they are intentionally changing who's under the cloak so they throw you off the set. I like that WWE is doing this. Listen to this. I am giving WWE a freaking compliment right now.
So I had a conversation with a buddy the other day. We talked about this, and I kind of agree with him. As soon as John Cena announced his retirement tour, WWE said, that's it. 2025 is all about Cena. We're going to pack it in. We're going to get as much merchandise as we can. We're going to do not a lot of great stuff. We're going to put everything in the back burner. And we're going to make 2025 about Cena. And I think that they've realized that it has not been a good year creatively. They have seen the momentum AEW has taken, and specifically from the online universe, I would reckon. And I think they're going to try some different shit in 2026, which may even mean Braun Breaker winning the world title on the first Raw of the new year.
I might have to revert my boycott just for that show. I might have to. I'm thinking about it.
And I had another conversation with somebody today that we said, is the first Raw of the year, is that now the new Raw after WrestleMania? Meaning, is that a bigger Raw now than the Raw after Mania? And I think you can make an argument. The answer is yes.
What we shall see. I am very excited about AEW Dynamite tomorrow. Winter is coming. We've got Samoa Joe taking on Eddie Kingston for the AEW World Championship. We've got Hangman and Swerve in a tag team match, which I never thought I would say, given how insane their feud was. That's AEW's best feud. Easily.
You could make an argument Moxley and Kenny Omega when they first started.
Oh, yeah, but Swerve and Hangman just took it to a ridiculous, insane level. Hell, you had Swerve breaking into Hangman's house. You had Hangman setting Swerve's childhood home on fire. I have loved that feud. The Death Riders story is great. We've got the Women's Tag Team Championship final going down tomorrow. It is Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa against Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron. And we've still got the Continental Classic going on. And I think this is leading to the downfall of the Death Riders. And the online thing is Claudio is going to be the new leader. I actually think it's going to be the Bastard Pac. Because it seems like he's taken a more prominent role. Would I be upset if Claudio takes over? No. My personal preference would be Pac. And let me just follow up with this. I know I was shitting on Survivor Series. I have since gone back and watched highlights. It actually, at least from what I saw, it wasn't that bad. Did I enjoy Blood and Guts more? Yes. But Survivor Series, the match itself wasn't bad. It just felt like it was kind of an anticlimactic ending.
And with that, I think we're going to have to wrap up the show tonight. We've gone an hour and 38 minutes. We appreciate all you guys watching. It was a busy week in sports. We'll be back next week to break it all down. I am so excited for this weekend. I'm sure tears will be shed by yours truly. But enjoy all the action, as Mr. Cena would say. Never give up. We got a lot of NFL going down this weekend. John Cena's last match. We do have Army versus Navy going down on Saturday as well. And I believe we got some NBA Cup action as well. So,
yes. And we've got Ohio State taking on West Virginia and Ohio taking on St. Bonaventure in the Cleveland Hoop Showdown at Rocket Arena on December 13th. Yours truly will be at both games. So, unfortunately, I will not be able to watch Cena's final match. I will also be at the Boca Raton Bowl down in Boca Raton, Florida, between the Louisville Cardinals and the Toledo Rockets. Never been to a Boca Raton Bowl in my life. I have no idea what's going to happen. I know nothing about Louisville, know nothing about Toledo. So we'll see how it goes.
Should be a fun sports weekend for you guys. We'll be back next week on Championship Rings. Have a good night, and we are out of here. Don't forget to never give up.
Hustle, loyalty, and respect, as MJF said to CM Punk.